Hi, welcome to the Balanced Body Podcast. My name is Stacy Sims and I own Pendleton Pilates in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm an educator and an instructor. Heather Summer is a co-educator with me and also an instructor in our studio system. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to look at how to stabilize the pelvis. I'm sure if you've spent any time in a Pilates studio or watching Pilates videos, you've heard your instructor talk a whole lot about neutral spine, stable pelvis, all kinds of things that have to do with this part of the body. But it's really kind of hard to see and feel exactly how your pelvis should be in position. So we're going to give you some ideas to help you be able to see your pelvis a little better and feel a little better position for your pelvis. Alrighty? So Heather's going to lie down on our boxes here. You certainly don't need to lie down on boxes. You can use the floor. I've just wanted to elevate her up so she's a little closer to me so I can see better. Alrighty? So the first thing we're going to do is whenever you start to work really in Pilates and start thinking about pelvis and alignment, you also want to make sure that your feet are in good position. So what I did is I just looked down to make sure that Heather's, both her feet were connected to the ground and that her knees were not open, that basically she's got her feet, her knees coming together in a line with the midline of the body. Alrighty? So then let's look a little bit more closely at the pelvis. Essentially, what we're trying to do is use the deep abdominal muscles to hold the pelvis in a position so that the low back, the lumbar spine, doesn't start over moving when the body, especially when the body starts to move. So the legs move away from the midline of the body or the arms move away. So, but first we have to be able to find that position before we even start moving and then maintain that position. So if Heather, or you if you're trying it at home, if you put the heels of your hands on the hip bone, so if you feel right here, you should feel these bony bones underneath the flesh. And then if you tip the fingertips forward, like Heather is now, the fingertips will come to rest on the pubic bone. So you want to be able to have X-ray eyes and imagine in your body. And you imagine that the hip bones and the pubic bone form a triangular plane. And that triangular plane, when you're lying down on your back, is actually parallel to the ground, okay? If Heather arches her low back, do you see how her hip bones are now higher than her pubic bone? And if she imprints her spine, her pubic bone is now higher than her hip bone. If Heather lifts her head and looks down, if she uses her eyes to start seeing a better pelvic position, what's going to happen is that if you get your eyes engaged in the alignment of your body, the neuromuscular re-education is actually going to move a lot more quickly. Go ahead and lie back down for a second so you don't get fatigued there. Oftentimes people will ask me, what should I do with my back? What position should my spine be in? Well, it's very difficult to visualize your back body or see your back body. So instead, if you just take a second, take an inhale, exhale, and you start to think about that triangular plane of the hip bones and the pubic bone remaining when you're lying down parallel, that's going to help you come a long way. So, and the deal is that, go ahead and lie back down for a second. It's generally not too hard to find the position when you're not moving. The challenging part begins to be holding that position as you move your limbs away from the midsection of the body. So I'm going to lift Heather's legs up into tabletop. This tabletop position is a great position because the knees stay basically right over that tailbone. And basically it just almost always means in this position that you're probably in pretty good pelvic alignment. If you bring your knees in, do you see how the pelvis just tilted backward and the spine is now imprinted? And oftentimes as the knees move away, that's when you start to get an arch in the back. So the trick is to hold the pelvis in place as the legs start moving away from the midline of the body. That looks beautiful. So I've given you one tool to help visualize a stable pelvis. I want to give you another tool to help feel a stable pelvis. So we're going to use this small ball. You can use any small ball. You don't want to use a super big one, about this size. So what's that? 3 inches-ish? 3 inches in diameter, maybe 4. I'm going to give the ball to Heather, and she's going to place it on her sacrum, so underneath her sacrum. So what's happened here is that by placing the small ball at the sacrum, basically if you put your hand on your low belly and then you follow that through, your ball is going to go right underneath there. When she lifts her legs up into tabletop, by being elevated on that ball, demands that the pelvis fall into the correct position. And what's going to happen is, can you feel already when you're up on that ball that the low belly muscles, the low back muscles, the pelvic floor, they all have to start working so she doesn't fall off the ball. So this is a great way to tone the Pilates muscles that are really going to keep your pelvis in place. And then what she can do is, once you feel stable that she's not going to fall off the ball, and I'm not going to push her off the ball, she can start doing exercises that take her legs away from the midline of the body. Good. Beautiful. So also to remember that the lower the legs are to the ground, the harder it is on the abdominals. So really this is going to be an easier position for the weight-bearing aspect. This is going to be much harder the further she moves her legs away. You can also try to unbalance yourself side to side. So I'm going to keep your legs in tabletop. I'm going to stabilize this leg and drop this knee out. Beautiful. And come back in. These moves do not have to be big at all. And if they're too big, we're going to do the other side too. So you're going to do this knee toward me. Good. If they become too big, you could easily fall off the ball. And she's not too high up. She's probably not going to hurt herself. Good. One more. Beautiful. Then she can take her legs back down. She can take the ball out from under her. Great. Thanks for stopping by and learning about the stable pelvis. We hope to see you soon.